is now live on both YouTube and X.
There we go. So first week in August, by the way, I'm not going to be available for the show.
Okay.
I'm going to be camping.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And unless you want to see a bunch of randos in the background in various stages of undress, you're probably not going to.
Yeah, not until we're broadcasting on Pornhub, buddy. Sorry.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Like, sorry, man.
Yeah, next year's camping trip, we'll probably be on the Pornhubs. Well, I don't know. They have issues with that here in the Floridas.
Dude.
But oh.
Listen, it's Canada Day, and somebody from the U.S. claimed, well, we're more free, and I kind of went, yeah, 25% of your population is carrying papers right now because they're afraid of being deported. You can't make that argument anymore.
No, not at the moment.
Meanwhile, the only reason why I'm carrying my driver's license around is because, I might be driving my car.
And even then, in the United States, we've confirmed that you don't need a license or registration to drive. You have the right to travel. So we at least had that going for us. So if you're not engaged in with a vehicle commercially, you can drive as one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, be warned, today is Canada Day, so I am going to be doing the Canada fuck yeah. It's like the one day of the year I do it.
You can do it for like half a second. Oops, too much, you can see my gross closet back there. Oh no, wait, they can't see anything. We're only leaking the audio, they can only hear us.
Oh, by the way, I might be getting theme music for my channel.
Nice.
I might have worked things out with a musician.
Does his name rhyme with Skogly Jotun?
No, it does not. He came to me and made me an offer, so.
There's an offer that comes with feels.
I mean, I could refuse, I just chose not to.
Your offer, should you choose to accept it, is a new theme song. Yep. Actually, I should probably do the updates on both photos. Maybe next week
Here, I'll send you the link of what he's tentatively got put together. Just because you guys might find it rather badass. Morality.
Tonight, you're not gonna believe who it is they're gonna think of playing James Bond. I mean, how can they pick this guy? As well as everything else that's been crazy that we missed out on the last couple of weeks, and more on the Entertainment Information Intelligence Podcast. And welcome once again to tonight's Entertainment Information Intelligence Podcast. I'm Petey York, joined by the ever so lovely Mr. Corione, Witch in Residence, who is currently number 2 fan of the Writer Brothers, not to be confused with the number 1 fan, which is, of course, me. And before we introduce John, let me just real quick... Well, actually, no. John, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you, and why are you here tonight?
No.
Oh, and I also need to make sure the chat box stays here, so that way people have more incentive. If you want your stuff seen, point the finger right here, in red right here, put it over the thing over there. And then it'll show up here. And then we can talk about over there. But anyway... I need to get music before it fades out. Yes. So we've got a lot to discuss. We've got the who the possible candidates are for the next upcoming James Bond. No, not to be confused with that awesome looking video game. But we've got so much stuff to discuss and to cover, and we are just eager to get right into it. But first, it's gonna be a new thing that I'm gonna do. Let me take a selfie.
But first, let me take a selfie.
Alright. I'll post that while we get on to our first story that Corione's gonna read.
I'm gonna read. Alright.
Why is everyone talking about Malta right now? You know what? I'll read
Okay.
a couple of things and then I'll let you take over. If you
Sure.
follow actors Josh Gad, Millie Bobby Brown, Anna Camp, whole bunch of names, filmmakers John Waits, Jake Schreier, and a whole bunch of other names, production executives from Amazon, A24, Universal Focus Features, HBO Max, Searchlight, and ArcLight Films. Okay, now we're talking real names. It's the goal of John Gretsch, who serves as Malta Film Commissioner and CEO of Malta Film Studios. The man is at the center of the Mediterranean Film Festival, which ran on the island nation from June 21st to 29th. And while it served as a showcase of international cinema, it's just as much a promotional tool to attract projects to Malta. Oh, okay, interesting.
And this year it's celebrating its 100th anniversary of hosting international productions and toasting a rich 40% tax rebate incentive to keep cinemas rolling in 2025 and beyond. So the reason why Malta's getting all this attention right now is there is a concern about the longevity of Hollywood in California, given tariffs and a bunch of other things that have come up lately. So the idea is, if there was, a island nation that was practically giving productions a tax-free reign on being able to film there, they might be able to lure sufficient amounts of Hollywood to their beautiful island area and do a lot of the build new studios there and do filming there, making the island nation no small amount of money in the fact that a lot of people would have to move there.
Wow.
So this is a power game by them to show how good that the Mediterranean can really be for filming.
Yeah.
So that's basically what they're going over in this. And I think it's an interesting discussion. Are we seeing the end of Hollywood and the rise of Maltawood?
Well, that sounds similar to when claims that people thought that Bollywood was going to rise and take over everything, and it didn't exactly do that because, well, most Americans find dance numbers in the middle of movies to be weird. And so it
Right.
just didn't quite take off the way that they thought. John, it looks like you actually have a thought or two to maybe materialize and share.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, shout out to Malta for offering a solid place to film. I think one of the biggest issues that LA is facing is just the thing it's already created for itself. They wanted to be the movie star haven, and then they wanted to be the bastions of democracy. And now they're both, and one of them is getting pushed out because the other has more voices. And the Hollywood people are like, what are we going to do? We did this to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, honestly, everybody that has a place to film, like, why are you not already advertising real estate for filming? Why aren't more, like, they're making these giant purchases of property, like Bill Gates supposedly buying tons of farmland. Why isn't he building random sound stages? Why isn't he building places for production studios so people can rent a couple hours, a couple weeks, a couple months? Suddenly, there's more communication in the industry because more people are filtering out of rented studios than secluded studios.
Yeah.
And I know IP holders that don't do anything, that got daddy's investment in the will. You guys are scared about losing interest due to confidentiality and all that. And that's your bad. You should have invented other things. You should have done more than just buy the rights to other people's labor. I'm not going to feel bad for anybody that is holding IP and is like, oh no, I wanted to produce this, but if I do it in a rented studio, it might get out. And if it gets out, then I'll make less than I was hoping to make, maybe, but I don't know that for sure because if I pay to make a good movie, usually people will go see it even if they already know what the plot is.
Oh,
Now, I do want to point out, Petey, that part of the reason why Bollywood failed is because failed to take over.
Strong word when they have a 1.8
failed to
billion
usurp Hollywood.
Person market.
Yeah, failed to take over the media landscape.
Because I should clarify. Yes, Bollywood is popular with Americans. It just didn't explode and take over it just didn't replace the entertainment the way that some people had speculated and thought that it would.
Right, but that's because people think you can replace artists. And they've been saying that for every artist ever.
So let me explain why I don't think it worked. In India, there are a couple of traditions specifically related around modesty and showing violence in cinema. Okay? And credit to Indian filmmakers, they've been very good about getting around as many of those problems as they possibly can. But at the end of the day, they are issues. Malta has no such problems. Right? In fact, one could argue that Malta is more open on it has even less modesty than the US and has no problem depicting violence at all.
They don't have the hyper Christian conservative motion picture, Association of America to censor all of their stuff. In fact, they probably only censor child exploitation and that's it.
Basically, yeah.
Which I expect nothing less. I mean, it seems everybody seems to agree that just needs to stop, regardless of where you're from in the world and how you choose to vote. So,
yeah, but that's basically it. So this is actually, in my opinion, a more credible concern than Bollywood ever was.
I agree. I actually think that what you've brought before us is something that we're going to have to keep watching throughout the next few years, and we'll see the trends at Malta, because we even thought for a minute And it did seem like the way things were, the way the culture was, Matt Walsh did have his chance to actually try and compete with Hollywood. He did have a legitimate shot there for that brief period of time between when they had Gina Carano for their, silly Western movie that they came out. But the problem was, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to just use the whole Gina Carano situation and then their other movie, The Hyperions, to try and generate interest so they could start getting their newsletter out so their propaganda could go. They basically, imagine subscribing to Disney Plus, okay? And then getting the Views newsletter in your mailbox. Every time I've subscribed to Disney Plus, that has not happened yet. I mean, it could. It could. But it hasn't. Yes, Hulu puts up the ABC News live feeds and all the, typically left-leaning propaganda networks, and I get it that those are things that they do, and YouTube typically promotes more left-wing. But the thing is, at no point have they ever gone so far as to spam their political garbage in my mailbox when all I wanted to do was sign up for their entertainment services. And that's basically like what turned me off from the Daily Wire's, woke free entertainment that just fell on its face. And it sounds like somebody else is trying to do it again, and it just, they don't get it. The problem is not so much the woke ideologies itself, it's the fact that they just take a moment in the movies and the shows to politically grandstand. And this is cringy regardless of what you believe. It takes away from the whole purpose of the show or movie that you're watching, unless you're watching a movie that's specific. Like if I watch House of Cards, you know what I expect when I get House of Cards? I expect political overtones of all facets. I'm watching a show that's literally about U.S. politics.
Yep.
And even they tried to say that went woke, and I'm just like, how? But anyway. So yeah, this Malta probably...
It turns into a everything I don't like is woke.
You're right. Everything I don't like is woke, or everything I don't like is fascist. Like, oh man, at least there's a sensibility out there that a lot of people are realizing that no wait, neither of these parties represent us. And I'm sorry, that's going to turn into a Saturday discussion or a Sunday. Whenever we do the end of the world again, we have got to get on the end of the world. It's been a minute. So back to the stuff. So next up, we talked about this on the 3-minute version. Villeneuve. Dennis Villeneuve is apparently the
Villeneuve.
Okay. See, I can pronounce words. Villeneuve is apparently Spielberg applied for this job. It didn't work out. Christopher Nolan and Tarantino and even Peter Jackson. So Lord of the Rings, crazy cult classics, and freaking greatest filmmaker alive right now couldn't even land Bond, and they applied for it several times. I mean, Christopher Nolan, James Bond. Come on, say no more.
That would be a very... Well, we kind of... I feel like the latest... the early Daniel Craig movies kind of treaded the ground that Nolan would have treaded anyway.
Okay.
Right? Like, I feel like they would have... we've kind of already seen that.
Okay, but what if it was a Bond in the Oppenheimer format?
Right. Well, that's it. Like, we could do that, but Bondenheimer. Okay.
Bond must take on the only enemy that he cannot truly overcome, himself.
Yeah. But the truth is, Denis Villeneuve did a fantastic job on the first Dune movie. Did pretty okay on the second. I'm inclined to see what his take is for Bond now.
James, you can't just rely on nukes to solve all your I did it again. Oh no, wait, sorry. That would be if you mashed up Harry Truman with James Bond. Anyway.
Harry Bond?
Harry Bond. Connery's back. So yeah,
But yeah, I think this could be an interesting take. Villeneuve is known for his kind of haunting visuals. So I feel like we could get some really good shots out of this. Right? I don't know about his choice in actors. It hasn't always been the best. But
well, we'll get into that meat and potatoes near the end. But
yeah.
Yeah.
But
we got a lot to talk
you know-
about the casting potential for Bond.
yeah, but he sets up images on camera really, really well. So I'm willing to give him a shot.
Yeah, I see what you did there. Just like in the intro to the James Bond.
That's it.
John doesn't have an opinion.
So I have a loud house.
Oh, but it sounds so
And
quiet on your end.
What can I say? I'm a master muter, man.
That's right. Just gonna leave that one alone. Ben Stiller explains why this was the right time to revisit Meet the Parents. Life informs everything.
Yeah.
I'll just read it.
Yeah.
After
Oh, are we gonna present it at all, or?
No. I'm just gonna read
Oh,
it
okay.
from now on. I'm just gonna have everybody look at our faces while I read it off. After a 25th anniversary screening of the Tribeca Film Festival, Terry Polo recalled getting a late call to play Robert De Niro's character's daughter while in an elaborate Halloween costume. Casting for Meet the Parents 4 is well underway, with Owen Wilson, the latest star to rejoin the franchise, with Ben Stiller, Robert De Niro, and Terry Polo. All right, that's really cool. I never watched this movie, so...
I mean, look, Meet the Parents is a fun comedy. It has always been pretty politically incorrect, and the fact that we're seeing comedies again is a good omen for civilization in general.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely thrilled about the new Naked Gun movie by Seth MacFarlane. Holy crap, does that look... just...
Right? And we're getting a new Spaceballs movie, and now we're getting new Meet the Parents. I mean, I'm kind of happy we're getting comedies again.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. So why did you like the original Meet the Parents? Why should I make the effort to watch any of them?
Okay, if you've ever had a situation where you've got overprotective parents for your girlfriend and you're meeting them for the first time, and you think you had the most awkward conversation with those parents, I guarantee you this one gets more awkward. Okay, like this will make you feel better about every mistake you've ever made meeting a significant other's parents. So, if anything, that's pretty good. And the fact that over time, Ben Stiller and De Niro's characters actually, work things out-ish a little bit and come to kind of a better understanding of each other is kind of heartwarming in a lot of ways.
Oh, that's just lovely and sentimental. Speaking of not lovely and sentimental, but certainly nostalgic, the rights for Akira are apparently up for grabs. I think we were talking about a live-action movie at some point, but it's I think we could say with an absolute
Warner Brothers
certainty that is folded and caved and is not happening.
Well, unless of course the Writer brothers chip their pennies together and buy the rights to Akira.
Yeah, we're gonna start a GoFundMe. Help the Writer brothers buy the rights to Akira, so that we can have Cameron Pasha write a script, and that'll be the most it goes anywhere. Anyway.
Well, okay, but
I'll ask Christopher Nolan. Hey, you got sorry you got turned down for James Bond. You would have come direct Akira.
I'm pretty sure he'd be right on board for that, because Akira does have a certain level of of awe and wonder from Hollywood when it comes to that series.
It's a weird
Akira
movie.
It's a weird movie, but it is one of the OG animes that if you ask anyone in the film industry what their what's on their top anime list, Akira is usually on it. right? Because of the haunting visuals, because of the David Cronenberg-esque, body horror.
Yeah.
Like it's got it all. There's something incredibly iconic about that bike. The badassness of driving at 200 kilometers an hour, right up near your target and just letting go of a ball peen hammer was pretty freaking badass at the time. The movie is all kinds of high strangeness meets street level cyberpunk feel. It's a fantastic movie, and the fact that the rights are up for grabs now, somebody's gonna go for it. And I figure it's worth watching to see who does.
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right, in an somewhat unlikely pairing, I guess you could say, but then again, that's the best buddy cop movies are always unlikely pairings. Heads of State. John Cena and Idris Elba bring buddy comedy spark to otherwise only sporadically diverting Amazon flick.
Right, so
Mhm.
Head of State, to give you a kind of synopsis of the movie, Head of State stars John Cena as the President of the United States. Idris Elba is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. Their plane goes down when they're on their way somewhere, and they have to survive out in the middle of nowhere, just the two of them, trying to get back to some form of civilization and figure out who tried to destroy their plane and strand them there. Well, really kill them. But it's like, what if a two starched shirt British Prime Minister and and the current American head of state crashed in the middle of nowhere Bogota? Could they make it out, kind of thing? So in a lot of ways, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it comes out tomorrow, and it does sound like it could be, maybe worth a look.
Yeah.
Check it out. All right, switching over to Deadline now.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Fleming Jr., why James Cameron is hell-bent on making Ghosts of Hiroshima, a Japan-set movie that will bring nightmare look at A-bomb blasts. Okay, so we basically are getting James Cameron is now bringing us the sequel to Oppenheimer. When you have directed 3 of the 4 all-time top global grossing films as James Cameron, you take his vow to try and stay on budget with a wink and a nod, because his cutting-edge films always push the envelope and never miss. But there is one promise Cameron made on a movie that you can take to heart. That was the deathbed vow he made to one of the last survivors of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb blasts to direct a film based on the upcoming Charles Pellegrino book, Ghosts of Hiroshima. The book comes August 5th from Blackstone Publishing and The Story Factory, timed to the 80th anniversary of the moment the world entered the perilous nuclear age. Martin Sheen just signed up to narrate the audiobook. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Here, Cameron explains his passion for a dark project he'll balance with his continuing Avatar franchise that has resulted in $2 billion grossing entries, and which he says will continue until the audience tells him they've had enough of the blue folks from Pandora. I mean, I had enough from the first movie, but I'm not the fan base he's looking for. We drop the next one December 19th, and we'll take it from there, Cameron tells Deadline. I've got the scripts, and we've done preliminary designs on 4 and 5, and we're ready to roll into it, referring to Avatar. But audiences taste shift, and maybe the movie won't exactly be what they want it to be. Who knows? We'll find out. We'll always find out the hard way. So he's going to try and do this while he's still doing
Avatar and the rest of it.
Avatar, yeah.
But I mean, I think this could be a really important story. If I remember correctly, the plot summary for Ghosts of Hiroshima, it's a lot of discussion about the days and months after the bomb dropped.
Yeah.
And I think that is a period of time that often gets glossed over in a lot of history textbooks and a lot of, retellings of history from an American perspective, right? I mean, we all get why Japan is very anti-nuke, right? I mean, they're the only people that kind of suffered under them in anger, but we don't necessarily understand why they don't. Why they're so horrified by it. And if this movie gives us a better understanding of that, I think that speaks to a better global understanding of the position of, what are effectively our neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And that's always an important thing to have, I think.
I think this Oppenheimer helped open the door to it, understanding the
build of the bomb.
Understanding the potential, understanding the why, the pressure that was on, and the assumption that somebody's just gonna create this weapon of mass destruction. And I think that personally not a huge fan of Titanic, personally not a huge fan of Avatar. I did enjoy The Abyss, and there's other Cameron movies that he's done good on. I think this is something that it is probably going to be a cultural impact, probably the likes of Schindler's List, if I'm being perfectly
I mean, it could
honest. I mean, this is, say what you will about James Cameron, the man is a man of his word, and lately, especially as he's gotten older, he does tell movies to try and be respectful of audiences. He wants to reach people. He's not trying to... He shares his perspective and his opinion, but he doesn't necessarily try to get too preachy. I mean, especially compared to today's modern jokes of movies and shows. So I think of all the people that could probably handle this, I think that he's probably the best one. Nolan gave us the technical side of things, the approach with it, and could Nolan do a I don't think that he would be able to get... Cameron brings emotions to the screen. He brings his actors, he empowers them to bring their most emotional moments. Like, you feel Ripley's maternal instinct in Aliens because... Yeah, he did the second one, right? Yes. Yeah, the first one was Ridley Scott. And then Cameron did, Aliens. And, you feel that because he knows how to bring people, he knows how to humanize characters. He knows how to make them believable. He knows how to make situations. I'll give credit where due. While I might not like some of his work personally, that's just, me, personal taste at that point. I have to objectively look at this stuff and the scenes and the impact and go, no, he really does make all of this believable. He makes Titanic real. And he brings it to life. And it's not just the characters that he makes the story out, but everything else going on around Titanic. Like, I've never actually sat down and watched the movie, but I've watched so many specials on Titanic, and it explains why the movie is as good as it is. And it's because, he went for that realism. So if he's bringing the Titanic, realism to the screen, and he's bringing the dedication that to this, since passed on last remaining survivor, I think this could be really good. And I am it's not one of those movies that I'm like looking forward to like Star Wars, but it's definitely one that I think is necessary for us to understand the devastation and destruction of these things, because I have no interest in living in a nuclear apocalypse or a post-apocalyptic Fallout. Fallout's fun to watch on TV. That's it. I mean, if you really want to go survive in the wasteland, there are thousands of miles of uncontacted, untouched lands and wilderness to go wastelanding in all by yourself if you really want to go live that way. There's plenty of people who live off the grid that you can go and bother and maybe get shot by, There's plenty of wasteland out there to get your wasteland experience. We don't need to nuke ourselves.
Yep.
So, John, any thoughts on this movie now that you've heard me rant for 30 minutes? All right. Moving on now. Oh, you're only 41 minutes in. We're doing really great tonight, guys. It's a
Yeah, we're
good
moving
show.
it along.
Moving right along. Squid Game creator compares show's villains to Elon Musk. Musk is everywhere these days. Well, yes.
Yeah. So this, I think this is an interesting comparison, right? Like, on one hand, we have one of the richest people alive who seems to like generating terror in others for his own amusement. And on the other hand, we have a fictional character. So, I can see the parallels here, right? And I can see why the actor, or like why the director and the writer from an outside perspective would kind of see the similarities. Now, for the record, I don't necessarily know if I see it. I've always felt Squid Game was a general critique of of an elite class that has gotten so bored with life they have to pick on people not as well off in order to amuse themselves. But that does kind of lean in inadvertently to what some of the things Elon has been accused of lately.
I'll point out that as far as we know, Elon isn't running a Squid Game of his own. So,
well, I will counter that by saying that it was part of Doge's idea to run a reality show where people could compete for a green card.
Yeah.
Add in guns and you have Squid Game. Right?
Right, but what would they be competing for? And I don't think it should be a green card, it should be status, but what do I know? I'm a better supervillain than this supervillains. No, that's
maybe a get out of ice free card. I don't know.
Well, just follow the law, renew your visa, and do your personal responsibility with your paperwork, and you don't have to worry about things. Usually. That said, unfortunately, there have been some improper deportations, and that's actually 100% unacceptable. American citizens shouldn't be getting deported unless they've committed high crimes. See, I'm of the point where, well, why do we keep the high criminals of you?
Hey, man, I'm all for keeping American felons out of Canada. Unfortunately,
you're exactly
your president,
where we need to deport them all.
Oh, unfortunately, your president keeps visiting.
President felon. Anyway, this isn't the end of the world, but it's clear we need one soon.
Yeah, I'm good at this point with the general reset. And
so anyway, Donald Trump says a group of very wealthy people are looking to acquire TikTok. Really? Is that group of very wealthy people your kids, Donnie Boy, or at least somebody? So I said a while back that this whole thing with the TikTok and being owned by China and executive orders to extend it was all just a show, so that way TikTok can become the next propaganda arm of the Republican Party. And, well, it looks like that acquisition's about to go through. And I can't blame him.
Yep.
His little Truth Social website didn't really blow up into the counter Twitter. And now he's got the guy who owns Twitter against him again. So it just, how else does Donnie get back into the propaganda spotlight, or rather making him look good in the propaganda spotlight?
To be fair, his own Twitter is also making Elon look bad as well. I don't know if you've seen the info from Grok, where Grok is reporting that somebody attempted to change its ethical subroutines and the only person that can do that in theory is Elon Musk. Grok just told him no. Did you also see the ones where Grok is currently arguing with Marjorie Taylor Greene about whether she's Christian or not?
No, but I mean that doesn't
Yeah.
take an AI to figure that out.
Right, but I mean the point of the matter is, you know, you've got, you know, Twitter kind of on, you know, in a lot of ways on really nobody's side, including Elon's now. You've got Blue Sky, which, let's be honest, is not awesome, but is kind of like where the left ran off to.
And even that's
And you
not
have-
doing great.
Right, you have Truth Social, which isn't doing great.
That's the right-wing version of Blue Sky.
Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I can see why they'd want to buy TikTok. I mean, the algorithm is already there for, you know, show more pro-communist material. All they got to do is change that to show more pro-Republican material and, you know, let things cook, right?
Wait, so what team are we showing them from? The red team. But we're already showing propaganda from the red team anyway.
That's it, right? It's just slightly different red flags, you know, like.
So yeah, new party can't happen fast enough. Vin Diesel reveals why Fast and the Furious finale release window says Paul Walker's Brian O'Connor character will return. So we have the finale, the final for sure, last for sure, final Fast and the Furious movie is for sure gonna hit. Vin Diesel surprised the crowd on Saturday at Fuel Fest in Southern California, saying the final film of the Fast and Furious franchise will hit theaters April 2027. So April of not next year, the year after, will be the end of the Fast and the Furious franchise. I feel like we are finally for sure hitting the end of an era. John, what about you?
Okay.
All right, good thought. All right, Corione.
I mean, I think it is time for the Fast and Furious franchise to end. I think it was time to end it about 8 movies ago. But
one last ride, man. You know what's gonna happen, like in 30 years. One last family, one last ride.
oh no, they're gonna reboot this thing in like 2 years. Like, don't even worry. But I do think it's kind of cool that they're trying to include Paul Walker in some way, shape, or form into the movie. I think that is kind of
I think a lot of
good
people
thing.
are still sad that he died as young as he did. So,
I think so,
you
too.
know, it makes sense. I mean, I get it, but
You know, so long as they show him in kind of a tasteful manner, so long as everybody gets a satisfactory conclusion to their character arcs, I'm all for it.
really, it's the diehard fans of Fast and the Furious, one of which I just am not one of those people. So, I mean, happy for you guys, I guess, or sorry that your series is. I don't know. But hey, you know, all I can say is family.
Like I said, though, I'm pretty sure they're gonna reboot this thing within 3 years of them ending this series.
100%. We gotta have bald Tom Holland reboot it. So.
Okay, now I kind of want that.
Shit, I've spoken too much. Oh, you know they're gonna make Paul Walker's character a female. So I mean, is that? Sure?
Oh no, 100% black lesbian in a wheelchair.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Unwatchable otherwise. I mean, if your movie doesn't have that, why should I go to the theater?
That's it, right?
You can't just make good characters. Skyfall Inspector costume designer opens on challenges of upcoming James Bond movie. Former James Bond costume designer, we're just getting all the Bond news today. Costume designer Jenny Tamim
Sure.
has questioned whether it will be possible to successfully reboot the 70-year-old spy thriller franchise for the current age. She worked on Sam Men's 2012 and 2015 movies Skyfall Inspector, but was not involved in Kojori's No Time to Die, the last film of the franchise to date, which came out in 2021, with Daniel Craig's Bond perishing in a barrage of missiles. We made 2 beautiful James Bond, 2 amazing gems, describing the coming together events. the Golden Trio. She said adapting Bond to the times had already been a challenge a decade ago. Well, I mean, I guess.
I mean, personally, I would reboot it when Amazon does this. I think they'd be foolish not to reboot it in the 60s, in like the height of the Red Scare, Cold War kind of time period.
Yeah.
If only because, that's where James Bond works best, right? And having the predictably futuristic tech that could potentially be in his repertoire being just modern tech opens some interesting doors for the character as a spy. So I think personally it makes more sense to put it back into the 60s. But, if they want to reboot it again in the modern age, I mean, we got to start looking at, well, does James even really need to be in a suit most of the time? Right? So, but I mean, I did like her costume work in, in Skyfall.
Maybe it's time to. I don't know what. Okay, if we are
dancing around the question of, do we need another James Bond?
Do we need James Bond to fit in 2025? No.
Right.
Okay, but the other thing is, how relatable was James Bond in a lot of those other movies? We literally have movies where they have laser guns and, like, space gun battles in space. So how does that fit into the era of its time even, and not, like, stand out as its own reality, just kind of offset? So, like,
right.
Imagine instead a world where we can put all the Bond movies together in its own timeline and its own universe. So maybe instead of worrying about it, whether or not it fits in 2025, just give Bond his own. Just do James Bond Beyond, like Batman Beyond. But now we're gonna go future James Bond with flying cars or stuff. I don't know. There's any number of things we can do with this character. We don't necessarily see. I think we're caught up in the approach that we did during the Daniel Craig era, which I think was kind of foolish, because Brosnan era feels a little like its own thing, like it's its own sort of high-tech gadget universe that
yeah, like it feels like very 90s James Bond,
which is good. It's supposed to, but it's a sci-fi thriller. Whereas Daniel Craig in Casino Royale, we try to go back to, more realism and what's cool about this car? Oh, it has a defibrillator in it, which, of course, as Americans that struggle with obesity probably think that's fancy and futuristic. But the thing is, there wasn't, like, freaking grapples shooting out of the car to cause it to do a high-energy churn with rope swings. There wasn't, a flying mode or a gliding mode or any of the cool shit you can do in, the video games, for example. The video games are actually probably the best medium for James Bond right now, to be honest. Actually have been for, like, the last 20 years. But that said, that's not to say that you can't have, like, a good movie or series on Amazon that doesn't have its own thrill. Just, set it in its own universe and go back to the 90s era Bond. Why not?
I mean, look, for me, OG Bond is still my favorite Bond. And part of the reason being is because it was literally a product of its time, right? We've got, James Bond being an unapologetic man whore. We've got, the stupidest gadgets possible that seem to work out. And we've got Sean Connery as James Bond, which, I mean, the machismo on that man at that time and when he was playing the character was just so on point. So to me, I love the really, really old OG James Bond. And I could see going back to the 60s really well and it being a fantastic time. but I also don't think we necessarily need it in a modern, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can just do James Bond in whatever universe we need to do James Bond in. We don't necessarily. I don't feel I need a super international spy to relate to in 2020. I feel we have enough of that craziness going on in reality. Let's go back to escapism, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so Henry Golding explains why James Bond role is every actor's kind of nightmare. As the search for the next James Bond reaches the final stretch, Henry Golding shared his thoughts on the seemingly coveted role. The British actor recently explained why the 007 lead character is every actor's kind of nightmare, following news that Dennis Villeneuve will helm the next installment in the 6-year franchise. But at the same time, you're also wanting to kind of add something new to the franchise, he told People. Why can't they bring on more agents or more 00s? I would think that would be so much more fun because there just isn't the restraints and the expectation. Actually, I agree with him. That'd be a cool way to go about it. Maybe instead of making it just about James Bond, we turned it into like an ensemble of secret agents. Kind of like what Kingsman was starting to do. But then that show failed to stick the landing.
Yeah, look, I mean, to me, I get what he's talking about. You are going to be, if you're playing James Bond, you are stepping into the shoes of freaking titans and expecting to carry on a legacy and a flame that was ignited long before some of these actors were even born. And, you know, having that kind of pressure on you cannot be easy, especially to do something like new and iconic with that role. I mean, how are you going to do anything new and iconic with that role given everybody who's attacked that role so far has done something new and iconic with it?
Dude, you put Adam Driver in there and you let him be a Marine.
Well, you know, you laugh, Petey.
Oh, no,
but the truth of it is, well, no, but like in the original Ian Fleming books, Bond was initially a British Marine. So that's not exactly that far off.
Yeah.
Right? He was a Scotsman that was a British Marine.
He would actually get to be inspired by a real Marine.
Well, we can have a debate on that one.
The Royal Marines won't, so you won't either. See 1812.
All right.
Hey, man, don't make me pull out the Geneva checklist.
Right. All right, now for the moment we have been teasing all night. Amazon's wish list includes Jacob Elordi, Tom Holland, and Harris Dickinson. Well, this, of course, has sparked some debate on the twatters. Most people thinking that Holland is just not the guy for the job. Me, personally, I think that, yeah, it could be a total disaster. It could also be the smartest move ever. This may come as a shock, but Tom Holland is desired by the younger generation, more particularly the younger ladies.
This may also come as a shock, but Tom Holland's like 5'10".
Yeah, but then so was Sean Connery, dude.
No, but I mean that mostly because every time I look at Tom Holland, I see a 5'5", maybe breaking 5 feet tall kid. But then I remember that I saw him next to Mark Wahlberg in, was it Unchained, Uncaged? I can't remember
Uncharted.
what that one was. Uncharted. And he towers above him.
Yeah. So,
Just
I mean...
a reminder. Casual reminder, he's about as tall as Daniel Craig, who's 6 feet, so 2 inches taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and Daniel Craig was about, the most wooden plank of wood James Bond there ever was, which worked for me in Casino Royale. But by the
spy.
Right. So back to my point. We did the realism. Let's go back to the 90s. Let's go back to the Brosnan era, which I could honestly see Holland potentially bringing us back more towards, is that Brosnan era of just cool confidence, and with that cool confidence comes great sexiness. And that's what it takes to play Bond. And, well, a couple of years ago, if you had suggested this 3 to 5 years ago, I'd probably be like, yeah, this is the stupidest choice ever. He's little boy Spider-Man. All the comments that people gave me on X,
But it
Twitter, and
does
Grief.
make sense.
He's not a little boy anymore.
Yeah.
He's
Like, when you look at it, it does kind of make sense in a lot of ways. If you were going to reboot James Bond and you wanted to start off with the start of his career, Tom Holland is the perfect choice, as weird as it sounds.
he is like the Spider-Man that we saw in No Way Home. There was like a huge growing up on screen that we witnessed, because we see him he brings a very like grown up Spider-Man for
Yeah.
like that early on, which was incredible. But by the end of that, I was like, and then he got cast in Uncharted, and I'm like, this dude is not. He's breaking out of his
little boy image, yeah.
his teen heartthrob phase, and he's already being taken more seriously.
dude.
So
If you guys haven't dabbled into his Apple TV debut, stay away, because you will realize this boy is a man and very good at it.
Yeah. No, I have no doubt he can pull this off. That's the scary thing. The scariest, like, what I think is the most intriguing part, though, is this does set us back to the precedent of trying to go back to, like, Pierce Brosnan was getting a little up there to be playing Bond,
he could have
Daniel
given us
Craig-
a couple more movies, but
but he was starting to get a little older when he started it. Daniel Craig, again, was just on the cusp of being too old for the role when he started it,
yeah,
right? This is the first one where I'm like, if he's doing a true to the novel, the original Ian Fleming novel, Casino Royale, he's the right age and he's the right size for the role, right? They picked Bond to go on this mission because he was a smaller, unassuming guy who, while in the Marines, happened to be the best poker player in his unit. And it was a reputation that kind of hung with him, that he really knew his way around a deck of cards. And that's how he initially starts. If they go true to that, I think this could work.
yeah. And the other thing is okay, the studios, the execs, they're not trying to eyeball the boomers and Gen Xers that miss the days of Connery being the only Bond, or Moore being the only Bond, or Brosnan being the only Bond. They're looking to appeal to the younger generations, which millennials, I'm sorry to say, we are not the younger generation anymore. We may be holding our age in fairly well, but Zoomers are now the ones that are, making and spending money. In fact,
They're the ones that are ruining everything now.
Actually,
Yeah.
Zoomers and Xers are spending more money than millennials right now. So there's also that to be considered of. And then who knows what kind of money Gen Alpha is just going to be, cranking out freaking money before they're even 18, because they could just, start all the internet stuffs and YouTube channels and, have 8 gajillion subscribers before this channel hits 400. Point is, there are ways to succeed in life, and Gen Z, Gen Alpha is what they're calling them, or Alpha. I don't know. There's not really a whole lot of alpha about them, but they are ones that are going to be going to the movies for a long time now, and so they want to bring in the newer generation while also probably satisfying the older generation. And I think that realistically, guys, Tom Holland's not a boy anymore.
No.
So,
Look,
but what about
like
these
I
other
said-
2 kids?
Well, both of them are pretty good. I don't think either of them, though, and this is my personal opinion, have the kind of industry experience Holland has. Right? They've acted before, but in smaller things.
Ah,
Right? Now, I do think Dickinson would has the face for the role, right? But I don't know if he has the acting chops to pull it together. So the other two are in my opinion dark horse candidates when you're up against Tom Holland.
Wow, that's quite a statement. All right, well, that's going to bring us to the end of our this week's pop culture intelligence podcast. Of course, we will be back in 2 weeks, not just with pop culture, but we are going to be reviewing shows again. Yay! Strange New Worlds Season 3 is dropping on July 11th, and we are going to be watching every episode every week. Whether or not we show up for a live show every week during lazy summer will be taken at a week-by-week basis, but we are for sure watching at least Strange New Worlds, and of course keeping up on all of the latest and greatest in Hollywood news and entertainment and anywhere else around the world. We're not just covering Hollywood, we're covering multi-tainment. We might even cover Bollywood on occasion. But please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps us grow. We need to keep growing. We gotta get past 400 subscribers again at some point. So yeah, and that helps with every single one of you that come in, that show up, whether you guys are liking and sharing or commenting on a replay, whenever. We appreciate all the support of our fans that have been here since the beginning. That does not ever go unnoticed. Please don't think for a second that we're just like, oh, it's not enough. I mean, it's not, but it's better than nothing. So that's where we're at. It's got to keep going. It's got to start somewhere. And so we appreciate the continued loyalty and the dedication. It will not be forgotten when we hit 8 gajillion subscribers in 1,000 years. We will remember everyone who was here for the 379.
There we go.
So yeah, any last words to be said before we get out of here?
Parsnip.
Okay then.
I figure as a last word, it's confusing and mysterious enough that I can get away with it.
Well, I mean, it'll probably have to do. I'm Peter York. He's Corione. That's John. We'll catch you on the next E2IP. This has been a presentation of the Entertainment Information Intelligence Podcast from the Writer Brothers. The Writer Brothers, more journalistic integrity than CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News combined.